All right. Good morning, folks. So, sorry, I've been gone the last week. I've been sick and had some home repairs going on, and then also just the holidays and all of that busyness. But that's no excuse. Um, but I don't know what it was. I could not get myself out of bed early enough to do this for a while now. Um, Finally feeling a little better. So, just keep praying that that continues. Anyway, Genesis chapter 31. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, Go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah to come out of the fields to where his flocks were. He said to them, I see that your father's attitude towards me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I've worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said, The speckled ones will be your wages, then all the flocks gave birth to speckled young, and if he said, The streaked ones will be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and has given them to me. In breeding season, I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats mating with the flocks were streaked, speckled, or spotted. The angel of God said to me in a dream, Jacob. I answered, Here I am. And he said, Look up and see that all the male goats mating with the flocks are streaked, speckled, or spotted. For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, and where you made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native land. Then Rachel and Leah replied, Do we still have any share in the inheritance of our father's estate? Does he not regard us as foreigners? Not only has he sold us, but he has used up what he has paid for us. Surely all the wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you. Then Jacob put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove all the livestock ahead of him, along with all the goods he had accumulated in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole his father's household gods. Moreover, Jacob deceived Laban and Aramean by not telling him he was running away. So he fled with all he had, crossed the Euphrates River, and headed for the hill country of Gilead. Gilead. On the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. Taking his relatives with him, he pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. Then God came to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream at night and said to him, Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead, where Laban overtook him, and Laban and his relatives camped there too. Then Laban said to Jacob, What have you done? You've deceived me, and you've carried off my daughters like captives in war. Why did you run off secretly and deceive me? Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing and the music of timbrels and harps? You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. You have done a foolish thing. I have the power to harm you, but last night God, the God of your father, said to me, Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Now you have gone off because you longed to return to your father's household. But why did you steal my gods? Jacob answered Laban, I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find anyone who has your gods, that person shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, see for yourself whether there is anything of yours here with me. If so, take it. Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods. So Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tent of the 2 female servants, but found nothing. After he had come out of Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them inside her camel's saddle, and was sitting on them. Laban searched through everything in the tent, but found nothing. Rachel said to her father, "Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. I am having my period." So he searched, but he could not find the household gods. Jacob was angry and took Laban to task. "What is my crime?" he asked Laban. "How have I wronged you, that you hunt me down? Now that you have searched through all my goods, what have you found that belongs to your household? Put it here in front of your relatives and mine, and let them judge between the two of us. I have been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten rams from your flocks. I did not bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself, and you demanded payment from me for whatever was stolen by day or night. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime, and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. It was like this for 20 years I was in your household. I worked for you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night he rebuked you." Laban answered Jacob, "The women are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about these children they have borne? Come now, let's make a covenant, you and I, and let us serve as a witness between us." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. He said to his relatives, "Gather some stones." So they took stones and piled them in a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jegar Sahadatha. We'll go with that. And Jacob called it Gilead. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today. That is why it is called Gilead." It was also called Mizpah, because he said, "May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives beside my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me." Laban also said to Jacob, "Here is this heap, and here is this pillar I have set up between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness, that I will not go past the heap to your side to harm you, and that you will not go past the heap and pillar to my side to harm me. May the God of Abraham, and the God of Nahor, and the God of their father judge between us." So Jacob took an oath in the name of the fear of his father Isaac, and he offered a sacrifice there on the hill country, and invited his relatives to a meal. After they had eaten, they spent the night there. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them, and then he left and returned home. So, there's some obvious parallels between what happens in this chapter and what's going to happen in Exodus. So we see that Laban is acting like a proto-pharaoh in a certain way, and he's changed his wages 10 times, which kind of is funny because there will be 10 plagues in the future, and he's overworked him and exhausted him until Jacob has no choice but to leave. He has no future left with Laban, and it's clear that Laban is going to continue to abuse him. So he flees, and Laban pursues him, and this is all very similar to what's going to happen with Egypt and the Israelites. And then we see there's a crossing, and this crossing is also symbolized in the pillar and the pile of stones. So on Jacob's side, there's a pillar, and on Laban's side, there's just a heap. So Laban's come to a heap of rubble, and Jacob has built himself into a pillar. And they make a covenant not to cross that boundary, to harm one another. And this boundary is, we could draw similarities between that and the Red Sea that we'll see later. And there's quite a bit that's interesting in this chapter. So we see the dream that comes. And so this prophetic dreaming seems to have followed through the generations, right? We remember Abraham having this dream next to the sacrifices, where he sees the smoking fire pot and the torch pass between the sacrifices. And then we see here Jacob having this dream of the speckled and streaked goats. And then later we're going to see Joseph and the prophetic dreams that come with him and his ability to interpret dreams. And we see that this is a family heritage kind of thing. This is getting passed down here. And it continues to play a role. And, Leah and Rachel, so Rachel having left, she steals the household gods. And that seems, there's probably more to this. Because obviously that's idolatry, and there's a problem there. But it also seems to kind of forecast how the Egyptians will send the Israelites off with jewelry as they leave Egypt. In the same way, they're leaving with this wealth of the person whom they're fleeing from. And it's very interesting. So 10 times Jacob has his wages changed, what he expects to get by working, and it always ends with him working longer. And 10 times plagues will come to Egypt, and Pharaoh will say, okay, you guys can go, and then change his mind. And so there's this pattern that keeps coming. And then we also see that there's this 7 years too, which, as I've already mentioned, when you see a 7, it tends to mark the end of an epoch. And so that's the end of the epoch for Jacob and his time with Laban. I can't remember exactly where that was. But anyway, it's an interesting chapter because it definitely forecasts the forthcoming conflict with Pharaoh and how the Israelites are going to struggle in their exodus. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this chapter. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.